Greetings and salutations. Kunic here, back with another RPG horror story for you today. In today's story, the DM decides to take on the 3D6 subreddit, and to say he wasn't welcomed is a little bit of an understatement. So let's roll for initiative and begin the story. Session 1 of this campaign ended with my level 3 Bear Totem Barbarian reaching level 4 and finding a freaking OP magical great axe that did an insane 2d12 damage, which sounds broken, but the DM just made everyone OP and then gave every monster health until the fight was dramatic enough for them to die. I'm not criticizing the DM style, I had fun playing this way. The issue is what happened next. In later sessions, we find out that the axe belonged to the big bad evil guy, who used it to put a curse on the moon somehow, so it randomly does the Zelda Breath of the Wild blood moon thing, and summons cursed demons when it turns red. The big bad evil guy died after that, and has reincarnated now thousands of years later, and wants to get his axe back, so the DM suggests my now mid-level barbarian character multiclass into either a hexblade or an eldritch knight to bind the weapon to me, so the big bad evil guy can't get it back and return to his former world-ending level of power. I don't think you can say something is still a suggestion when the consequences for not doing it are the world you are playing in will likely end. And with this knowledge, my character would certainly rather take 3 levels in another class that nerfs him than risk the alternative. So I try to be a good sport about it and do my research on the feasibility of multiclassing into Hexblade or Eldritch Knight. Hexblade is a definite no because as a level 7 Bear Totem Barbarian with a 2d12 axe, my entire character is built to be face to face with enemies tanking damage and raging. No spells I can get by level 3 Warlock would even be 1/10 as useful as my melee attack, and I would need to not be raging to cast them, so I would never use anything from the Hexblade class, ever. Not to mention I'd have to take 3 level ups with a d8 hit dice, which being a Bear Totem Barbarian means 8 less health per level. Eldritch Knight on the other hand is a fighter subclass, so my hit die would be a d10. I would get a fighting style, second wind, and action surge. Fighter and Barbarian multiclass works very well, so the only real wasted level would be level 3 when I go into Eldritch Knight, but I would still be able to bind 2 weapons to summon at will, get 2 wizard cantrips, and get 3 level 1 spells to pick. Once again though, I can't think of any way a Barbarian with a 2d12 Great Axe is ever going to be casting spells in combat instead of raging and tanking. So I went on R3D6 to ask for tips on how to make this build work, and they suggested that I focus on the spells that would be useful out of combat, and highlighted a few key options. Unfortunately, Eldritch Knight uses Ent for spellcasting, which is my dump stat, so I'm also further limited by spells that don't require an intelligence roll, unless I want them to never work. So the options I went with were cantrips. 1. Control flames. My character has dark vision, and an alchemy jug. So, being able to put out torches so I can sneak around in the night, and an infinite, albeit slow source of oil, I figure this might come in handy. 2. Mending. The world has a lot of islands to travel to, and even if mending only makes small repairs, that can be a huge benefit if something breaks while you are on a boat at sea. Also, I could cut locks or chains and then mend them to make it look like I was never there. And here is where the controversy began. Spells. 2 of which must come from the Abjuration or Evocation schools, and the third can be any wizard spell. 1. Alarm. Gives us protection while we sleep, and can be used to monitor an area after I leave it, as long as I'm within a mile of it. Ideas that spring to mind were monitoring a safe house where we are hiding NPCs, or making sure no one is following us down a tunnel or something. 2. Snare. Just a magical snare trap. Could be good for keeping a single person slowed down, easy to get out of if anyone else is with you though, or giving a quick advantage at the start of combat if you can lure someone into one of them. There is no limit on how many you can set. 3. Find familiar. My wildcard spell can be from any wizard school of magic, and by far the most useful as there are a wide variety of familiars that can help in basically any environment from underwater to in the air to in magical darkness. Owls have 120 feet dark vision, bats have blind sight, octopuses can grab things from underwater, and weasels have +5 stealth. And anything I summon can check for traps / set them off or pick them up for me, take the help action in combat, or even trade senses with me when they go off exploring. So, while Eldritch Knight is not a great multi-class for me, after 5 hours of researching it, I'm feeling pretty good. This was my first campaign, other than a couple of one-shots, so I had to research every fighting style that fighters get, as well as every wizard cantrip and every level 1 spell. I really put a lot of effort into making it the best it could be, and was more or less happy with the penalty I was taking to protect the world from the big bad evil guy getting his weapon back. I tell the DM what I have planned, and he insists that all 3 first-level spells Eldritch Knight takes must be from the Abjuration or Evocation schools of magic, so I can't start with Find Familiar. I showed him the wiki where it says the first 2 spells, and that I get 3 spells total, but he said the wiki didn't mean that. So then I showed him a YouTube video explaining Eldritch Knight with 10,000 views, and he said, "I don't trust that guy." So then I linked him my R3D6 topic asking for advice, and instead of believing the multiple people that posted on it, he decided to make his own comment on a day-old post saying what he believed the rules said and told me, "Now we'll see." Because no one was going to see his comment and he wouldn't get the feedback he needed, I made a new post on R3D6, asking for people to respond to his comment and help him understand the rules, and then went to bed. I woke up to him with karma in the hundreds of negatives, because he had evidently dug in his heels and decided to argue with the entire internet despite everyone telling him he was wrong. He was furious with me and told me I had disrespected and insulted him because I went on Reddit and got people to post mean comments to him. I told him I never said anything insulting about him, and I was on Reddit to ask them the best way to make the multi-class he made me take work, and that I had no control over what other people would say to him if he decided to argue with everybody. Then he tried to say he was the DM and could homebrew the campaign any way he wants, and I told him that was absolutely 100% true. He could make a rule that the Eldritch Knight doesn't get any spells if he wanted, but we were having a disagreement about what was written in the rules, not how he wanted to run his campaign. And I was hoping he wouldn't homebrew Eldritch Knight to be even worse than it already was when mixed with the Barbarian for no reason. He said I was ruining his campaign because I was happy everyone was being mean to him. I told him I actually asked Reddit to stop dislike bombing him when I saw he had decided to fight with everyone, and the real thing that was ruining his campaign was the fact that the Player's Handbook, a popular YouTube video, and 80+ people on Reddit could all tell him he made a minor mistake in the rulings, and instead of just saying, "Oh my bad," or "Oh well, I want to run it like this instead," he would argue with every one of them. And then he called me a cheater, because for levels 3 and 4 of the Barbarian, I had misread Reckless Attack, where it said, "You must declare on your first attack," and assumed for there to be a first attack, that means I get a second attack when I attacked recklessly, and was making 2 attacks when I used Reckless Attack. It was an honest mistake and I felt horrible about it, and the DM responded by just offering to let me make an extra attack as my bonus action now that I was level 5. And I felt so bad I said that was too OP and I wouldn't take it, after him trying to take a low blow and guilt trip me over an honest mistake I made in the early levels. I felt terrible and decided to leave the server. And that is how my first campaign came to an end. End post. So the post actually covered what I was going to bring up, which was the DM makes the rules, they can homebrew whatever they want. But as the OP said, that was not what was up for debate here. What was up for debate was the fact that he was blatantly saying the rules meant one thing when they very clearly mean another, and the fact that he just didn't take any advice or any tips or anything from anyone. It was his way or the highway. That's the problem here with this DM. And look, I've been on Reddit for over 12 years now, ever since Dig's demise back in like 2008, 2009 for those that are old enough to remember that. And let me tell you, there is no way to get a group of people on Reddit randomly to just mass downvote any comment. You would need an external community. So for instance, what my Discord server does. If I told everyone to go downvote a post, and spoiler, I never would, but if I did, that would be one way to accomplish it. But you can't just use Reddit as your downvoting machine. It doesn't work like that, and I'm pretty sure it's against the terms of service, meaning OP would be banned if it was found that he was doing that. Yeah, so there's that. Reddit was not the issue here. The issue is simply that the DM was not willing to take any advice from anyone, and when he read the player's handbook, and it specifically says the first 2 spells must be this and this, and the last spell can be whatever you want. When it says that, you can't just say the player's handbook means something else. They're not going to be vague about what's in the rules. They want you to know so that if you have a question on it, you can very quickly come to a decision. And as a result, I honestly think that this player made the correct decision for his first campaign. To GTFO from there. Yeah, he dodged a bullet. Like, there's nothing else to say here. The DM did not want to listen to reason. Yeah. Anyhow, that is it for today's post. As always, the source of it is in the description below, and the OP has linked the threads that he referenced in the story, so you can go check those out too. Unfortunately, because of the mass downvote hate, most of those posts were deleted, but the history is still there if you wanted to see. Now, if you liked the video and you want to see more videos just like this one, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon in order to be notified of my future videos. Anyhow, while you wait for my future videos, here are a few related videos that you can watch in the meantime.